In the early days of the Christian Church, believers often faced intense persecution for their faith. Amid these trials, extraordinary moments of faith and divine intervention took place. One such moment involves a young servant girl named Rhoda. Though her part in the story is small, her faith and courage leave a lasting impact. The story begins with the Apostle Peter in prison. King Herod Agrippa had started persecuting the church, and after killing the Apostle James, he had Peter arrested. The situation was dire, and Peter's execution seemed inevitable. But the early Christians were not powerless. As Peter languished in prison, they gathered in homes to pray fervently for his release. One such gathering took place at the house of Mary, the mother of John Mark. The room was filled with believers, their hearts heavy yet hopeful as they lifted up their prayers, pleading for Peter's safety. Rhoda, a young servant girl, was present in the house, serving the people and possibly joining in the prayers herself. She might have been no more than a servant, but her role in this story would soon show that even those on the fringes of society could be witnesses to God's miracles. As the believers prayed, something remarkable was happening in the prison. An angel of the Lord appeared to Peter in his cell. The chains that bound him fell off, and the angel led him out of the prison, past the guards, and into the streets. At first, Peter thought he was dreaming, but soon realized that this was no vision. He was free. Once Peter came to his senses, he immediately went to the house where the believers had gathered to pray for him. His heart must have been filled with gratitude and awe as he made his way to Mary's house, knowing that their prayers had been answered in a miraculous way. When Peter reached the house, he knocked on the outer gate. Inside, the believers continued to pray, unaware that the very man they were praying for stood at the door. It was Rhoda, the young servant girl, who heard the knocking and went to answer. As she approached the gate, she heard Peter's voice. Overjoyed, Rhoda recognized that it was Peter. Without opening the gate, she ran back inside to tell the others, her heart bursting with excitement. "Peter is at the door!" she exclaimed. But instead of believing her, the others dismissed her words. They told her she was out of her mind. How could Peter be at the door when they knew he was in prison? Some even suggested that perhaps it was Peter's angel. But Rhoda insisted. She knew what she had heard. Despite their initial disbelief, the believers eventually decided to check the door for themselves. When they opened it, there stood Peter, alive and free. Their prayers had been answered in a way that exceeded their expectations. The room erupted in amazement and joy as they welcomed Peter inside. Peter, meanwhile, motioned for them to be quiet. He knew that his escape would not go unnoticed, and he needed to move quickly. He shared with them how the Lord had miraculously delivered him from Herod's prison, and instructed them to tell the others, especially James, about what had happened. Then he departed to another place, knowing that his life was still in danger. Though Rhoda's role in the story may seem minor, her faith and enthusiasm were key elements of this miraculous event. She believed before anyone else that Peter was truly at the door, even when others doubted her. In a world where servants were often overlooked, Rhoda's faith and quick response demonstrated that God values and uses all people, regardless of their status. Her story serves as a reminder that faith isn't always about performing grand miracles or holding positions of authority. Sometimes, Faith is simply recognizing the hand of God at work, even when others doubt. Rhoda's courage to speak up, despite the dismissive responses, highlights the importance of trusting what God has shown us, even in the face of skepticism.